Good, blessed Monday morning to you. I'm down here by the pond. Got my coffee in hand, look. And the reason why I'm down here by the pond is because, I don't know if you can see those little ripples hither and thither across that pond, and it's not raining. There's a lot of frog activity going on down here. A lot. So I'm just going to rest my camera on there, on the big stone. You see the big stone here? And just rest it on there. Let me see now if I can just get it into a better mode than that. Let me see. Okay, I'm just going to drink my coffee. Now. Now, so the ponds have come back, the frogs have come back into the pond, and at the moment they're making themselves heard, although that huge kind of frog chorus hasn't come to pass just yet. But you can hear from all the birdsong around that all the creatures that live here at Bealtaine have got the spring message. Just going to walk up to the silt pond and have a look up there. Jack? Where's he gone? Jack? Ah, there you are. Right. I heard a rather disturbing fact on the radio. NUI Galway, that's a big university over in Galway, conducted a study on the stomach contents of fish, and they got their study fish from a very remote part of the northwest Atlantic. And the fish that they looked at were fish that normally kept to the very deepest parts of the ocean, only coming to the surface at night. And very disturbing fact, when they examined the stomach contents of this sample of fish, they found that over 70% of the fish examined had plastic in their stomachs. Tiny, tiny little bits of plastic. You know those little micro bits of plastic? Now these are wild fish. The fish that would be described by people as, you know, wild organic fish. Well, it sounds to me like there's no such thing now as wild organic fish. Can't be wild, can't be organic, if the worst of civilization has polluted them with plastic. All those plastic bags. All those dreaded plastic bags. Yes, I know that we're all, every single one of us, including myself, are still enslaved to a system that uses plastic as a de rigueur part of everyday trading. And it's going to be very, very hard to get away from all of plastic, but we do have to make a start somewhere. Not too sure where. I suppose the obvious things. But more importantly, I think it's how we dispose of the plastic. It's our disposal. It's our disposal efforts, which would appear to be quite cavalier. It's like everything else, you know, that is in essence pollution. For example, I mean, even if it comes down to something as kind to the environment as a compost toilet, if you don't deal with that waste properly, it is just simply a pollutant. So, you know, as in my case, I put it into huge big bins with holes drilled in the bottom, so any liquid can drain out safely and slowly. And there it stays for between 1 and 2 years until it has biodegraded safely and properly. And then it's one of the most wonderful sources of fertiliser you could possibly get. So I suspect it's not so much what we do as how we do it. It's going to be very difficult just to kind of get away from plastic. But I think a good start is in ensuring that the plastic waste is dealt with properly. And, you know, if possible, because we have masses of plastic that can be safely reused over and over and over again. And I'll tell you a little story. When the whole plastic industry started up, and you know, plastic bags became part and parcel of our shopping experience. I'm not talking plastic carrier bags, but plastic bags. Now, this was in the early 1970s when I was living in London, and I can actually remember the sort of impact that was starting to have. And it was actually a good impact initially, because what happened was I noticed that a neighbour of mine, I lived in a little house up in Tottenham in North London, and my neighbour, who was married, and both her and her husband worked, their children were grown up, so they had a good income. But I would notice out on her washing line, you know, we used to have a little peek at other people's washing lines. Oh, what's on the washing line? Plastic bags that she had washed out and hung out to dry. And I thought, oh, I never thought of that. That's a good idea. So then that was something that I began doing, and reusing plastic bags. Now, plastic bags, of course, have become so cheap and so throwaway that this is something now that very few people do. But it is an idea that we just keep using them and using them. You know, for various things. We don't even have to use them for foodstuffs. I mean, for example, I have a plastic bag that I put half-used tins of cat food into. And it's just a way of you know, keeping any smell away, and keeping the food fairly fresh and whatever. But I would use the same bag over and over. Give it a little rinse out every now and again. I think it's not so much a matter of the plastic in our society as our attitude towards the plastic, that everything's become so throwaway. And I think it needs us to sort of draw that line in the sand and say, well look, let's see how much waste I personally can either refrain from or recycle properly. And you know, the best recycling starts in your own home, finding things to do with finding, you know, ways of managing that waste. But it is like quite a shock to have heard that on the radio this morning. Gosh, isn't it so lovely just to listen to these birds? I mean, they really are in the spring mode. Look, I put my cup of coffee on there because my hand was starting to get a bit, go a bit dead from holding it. Let me just walk through here. The frogs are back in the pond. It's very hard to get to actually see them at this early stage. You have to wait until they're literally at the peak of their wild orgy, where they don't seem to care who's looking at them. That's the point at which you can get some really good photographs and some really good film. But they're back in the pond. I'm seeing the little ripples on the water. I'm hearing them as I approach the pond. And yeah, I think we're going to start seeing some spawn fairly soon. Now you can see what I've done to the path over there. I've been cutting back lots of greenery and laying it on the path because the path got a little bit mushy over there with all the rain. Jack! Come on. And look at all this gorgeous ivy. Oh, there's Jack getting all frisky. This ivy is just beautiful, isn't it? Look. The big trails of it. Just trailing down. So, it's a blessed life here in the west of Ireland because of the spring coming in so early. The winters are short. Now, I'm going to have my coffee now. So this is Monday morning, the beginning of the week. Come on, Jack, let's go up this way. The beginning of the week. Monday, it's always like a time of renewal, you know, where you can just let new ideas in and new thoughts, lots of possibilities, lots of plans. I posted quite a lot of little videos that I watched about tiny homes. I posted those on Facebook and on Twitter. There's a little bunch of narcissi there, look. Get a little close-up of that. Would help if I had my glasses on, but there we go. I'm squinting. Look at that, aren't they gorgeous? Blessed little flowers, all facing the sun, or the prospect of the sun. And there's the wood pigeons beginning to sing to each other. So, Monday. I'm just thinking in my head now some of the things I want to get done. I didn't manage to get over to the polytunnel over the weekend, and time is fast sort of overtaking me really. So I do need to get over to that polytunnel and get things stirring a bit. I've got manure to spread over there and some seeds to get started. It's quite, I won't say cloudy this morning, it just seems to be a little bit overcast. I think there was a little bit of mist earlier on. Jack loves to get out and listen. He likes to listen, and then he likes to pick up the scent of all creatures that have been through the gardens and the woodland gardens here at night. You can see that's like a little pathway there that he's just after having a little sniff at. I think the badger, the fox, I think they go through there. You know, something strange has happened to me over the past year or so. And it's quite simply this. I'm more and more reluctant to actually venture into the woodland gardens. I just want to stand on the edge and look in and listen. Isn't that weird? Almost like it's almost like a sacred place that one has so much reverence for that you just want to look at it. Now look at this. Look at the beautiful flowers coming out on the flowering currant. The Ribes sanguinum. Very lovely. Elizabeth T. With your Elizabeth T on Twitter. Thank you so much for the wonderful box of very thoughtful little goodies that you've sent from myself, Christy, Dean and Dwayne. Thank you. I'm actually drinking your coffee this morning and it's really nice. It's a nice kind of a nutty kind of a flavour. Gosh, I could just let this camera roll for hours. Anyway, I shall have to stop the filming soon, because otherwise it's going to be hours trying to upload it. I can just hear planes overhead up there in the mist of the morning. Now, come hell or high water, there's a tree that I'm going to be planting today. In fact, there's 2 trees, if I can get the other one out of the pot. Become rather pot bound. It's still healthy, but so you can see the old metal watering can that's laid on its side? Well, that's where one of the trees is, and that's an oak tree. So I'll have to, I don't know, come up with a way of getting that out. The other one, of course, is this lovely beech tree, which is there in the bucket. That'll be easy enough to take out. So that's it. A very good morning to you all. Blessings.